Hey everybody, welcome into the Shelby County High School Football Show. We're out here at Thompson High School getting you geared up for another week of football action right here in Shelby County. I'm Alec Etheridge, managing editor here at the Shelby County Reporter, and we've got an exciting one coming up this Friday night right here at Warrior Stadium as number 1 Thompson plays host to Oak Mountain in a top 10 region battle here. These two teams battling it out right now. If Oak Mountain's able to shock the state and pull off this upset, they'll throw chaos into Class 7A Region 3. So going to be a fun battle here between those two teams, especially the way both defenses have played so far this season. We'll see how that one unfolds. We're going to break that game down on this week's show, but that's just one of many storylines coming up. We're down to 2 weeks left in region play as of this Friday night. So a couple of big weeks. Some teams going to have a bye week either this week or the week after. So only one chance left to make a statement in region play this season. So a big couple weeks coming up in addition to what we've got here at Warrior Stadium on Friday night. We're going to break down all of the action ahead this Friday on this week's Shelby County High School Football Show. But in addition to that, we've got 3 teams that are going to be on bye in the AHSAA this Friday night. The Pelham Panthers, a huge win last week against Benjamin Russell, 20-14, as they cement the 2 seed in their region. So a huge victory there for the Pelham Panthers as they improved to 4-1 in region play and will have home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs now. Briarwood, a tough 14-0 loss last week on Thursday night to the Mountain Brook Spartans. They'll look to bounce back next week off a bye week this Friday night as they take on Homewood, and that's going to be a big battle. Could be for the 2 seed in that region and home field advantage in the first round of the playoffs. If not, if Homewood loses this week and loses to Briarwood next week, they've got Mountain Brook and Briarwood these next 2 weeks. Homewood could just be battling for a playoff spot with the way that region is shaping up, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the Chelsea Hornets later on in this show. And then the Shelby County Wildcats, a tough loss, 17-14 this past Friday night. They'll look to battle for a playoff spot. They take on Jemison next Friday in a game that they should win, coming off that 17-14 heartbreaking loss this past Friday night. We'll see how they respond next week. Talk much more about that big game for the Wildcats and a rivalry battle there on next week's show. The Cornerstone Chargers in the AISA, they're also going to be off this week. They lose 62-26 last Friday night. They'll be looking to finish the season with some momentum over the next few weeks. But we've got some big ones coming up this week. That takes care of all the teams that are going to be off this Friday night. So now we jump in. We talk about all the teams in action on a huge night of region play, and we start with our game of the week right here at Thompson High School. You can't ask for much more than what you're going to get on the football field here this Friday night. 2 playoff teams likely here in Class 7A Region 3 in a top 10 battle. And the Oak Mountain Eagles, they've been impressive so far this season under head coach Tyler Crane in his first season here leading the Eagles. It's been a tremendous thing to watch what he's been able to do with the defense playing some of the best football it's played in school history. And then you look at what the offense has been able to do with senior quarterback Evan Smith back running the show here at quarterback for the Oak Mountain Eagles. He's been just as impressive as in years past, running a different style of offense going into this season, made some big-time adjustments, and that's going to be what's a lot of fun to watch about this battle. He's had some success against Thompson defenses in the past. We'll see what happens this year with their new style. But when you talk about this game, you have to start with what Thompson has done so far and the historic pace that they've set this season. It's been remarkable, to say the least, what they've been able to do. You look so far, obviously these two teams both playing well. They're a combined 14-1 on the season, but the Warriors sitting at number 1 in the state, number 4 in the country according to Max Preps, 8-0, and they've outscored opponents 400-26 so far this season, yet to give up double digits in any game, and they've only given up 3 combined touchdowns through 8 games. That's remarkable if you think about what that defense has done so far this season, giving up just 3.3 points per game. The most points they've given up, 9 to Hewitt-Trussville. In that matchup, they gave up a field goal and a touchdown there, and they've given up 2 other touchdowns in 2 separate games so far this season. In addition to that, 4 shutouts on the defensive side of the football. You look up front, Peter Woods and Jeremiah Alexander, 2 top 15 recruits nationally, playing extremely well. Then you look at the linebacker position, Jax Van Zant, several others, Tony Mitchell, Traquan Fagans there in the secondary. You've got so much success on that side of the ball, so many nationally recruited players. That defense is playing lights out so far this season. Expect that to continue. It's not just going to disappear any week. I don't see them giving up more than 20 points to anybody in the state this season going forward throughout the playoffs and into the state championship. Now, they've got to live up to that hype, obviously, but this is the best defense I've seen over the last 5 years of covering sports here in Shelby County, and that goes for anybody in the state. They're one of the best defenses in the country this year with what they have on that side of the ball. So that's going to be a huge key for Oak Mountain to figure out how are they going to score points going up against that vaunted defense that Thompson puts out on the field each and every week. But then you look at the other side of it, and you've got a Thompson offense that's scoring 50 points per game. Like I said, they've outscored opponents 400-26 through their first 8 games of the season. You look at Connor Harrell, you look at Justin Pegues, Jalen Ward, Ryan Peppins, Brandon Franklin, so many others on that offensive side of the football, and an offensive line that's really emerged and improved throughout the season. They're just stacked on both sides of the ball, and they've got somebody at every position spread out across the field that can make a difference. And that's the tough thing at the high school level when you're an opposing defense, especially trying to find that mismatch trying to find somebody that can cover all of those mismatches is the biggest problem. And at the high school level, you just don't have that much depth and experience at every single. You're asking somebody at both defensive back, linebacker, and defensive line, all 3 of those positions, to be a next-level kind of guy, and you're not going to get that at every place in high school. So that's what's tough, and that's where if you're Oak Mountain, you've got to come out and just play with as much heart and passion as you can and basically pull a Rudy in this situation and just go out there and fight your tails off. And that's what Oak Mountain's going to do. They know Thompson's a very good football team, but they're not going to back down from that. They're going to go out there, they're going to play their hardest, and they're going to give it their all in this game. And you look at Oak Mountain that so far this season, and they shouldn't back down in this one. They shouldn't be scared to go up against the Warriors. They're sitting in the top 10 for a reason this season. They're sitting at 6-1 overall, and you've seen some different things from them under a first-year head coach, some adjustments that have really helped them improve in different facets of the game. You look defensively, first off, this is a defense that's giving up just 11.1 points per game so far this season. That's an impressive mark when you look at what they've been able to do. And their only loss of the season by 7 points to number 2 Hoover, who a lot of people think is the best challenger for Thompson this season. They lose that one 28-21, and they've given up defensively now 28 or less in every game. And outside of that Hoover game, they've given up 19 or less in all of their games and 14 or less in 5 of 7. And you look beyond that, they've given up 7 or less in 4 of their 7 games so far this season. So this is a defense at Oak Mountain that's playing extremely well so far this season. And you've seen Thompson in that first quarter a little bit this season struggle to pull away early. Now in the second quarter, it's a completely different story. They can put up 21, 28 points. But in that first quarter, can Thompson come out and score a bunch of points early? And I don't think the answer is yes, because of what Oak Mountain's been able to do defensively so far this season, and that's what leads this game to be close going into the second quarter, and that's where the question marks start. Can Oak Mountain hang around from that point forward? You got a quarterback like Evan Smith, anything is possible. He's a guy that can take it to the house on any given play, and you look at this offense in general. In the past, it's been an option-style attack. They run the football with 2 to 3 running backs with the quarterback. This year, Evan Smith still takes off with his legs, but it's more of a spread-out type of offense. And you look at guys that have stepped up, guys that haven't been asked to catch footballs in the past. They're stepping up and doing that this season. Cade George, a big guy that's played well. C.J. Branson stepping up. Trey Vassell is stepping up and playing well at the running back position. So you've got all this offensive talent now, and you're starting to see that transpire into some success in the passing game. One of Evan Smith's best passing performances last week as he threw for 4 touchdowns in a win against Tuscaloosa County. So a strong showing from him a week ago in the passing game. So now you've got Thompson having to focus on that and worry about that going into this Friday's game as well. So we'll see how that kind of coincides this Friday night. But you look at these two teams, obviously Thompson's the favorite to win the state championship, one of the best teams in the country. They're the favorites to win this football game. They should win this football game, but Oak Mountain's not going to back down from this fight. It's going to be a fun one to watch. I think you're going to see Evan Smith in his final time against Thompson looking to come out and pull off an upset at the quarterback position. He will make plays, but you've also got to have your offensive line playing well against arguably the best defensive line in the country in high school football. So that's the big thing. Oak Mountain is going to be a little bit undersized in the trenches in this game, and when you're going up against some of the talent that Thompson's going to have on both sides of the line, that's going to be the tough thing. That's what makes the difference. We'll see if Evan Smith has some escapability, can make some big-time plays like we've seen in the past. I think that gives them a chance to at least keep this game close. But at the end of the night, the Warriors, the top team in the state, they should continue to roll and improve as they get to 9-0. That said, for the Oak Mountain Eagles, after this, a huge game against Hewitt-Trussville. Big chance for them to gain the 3 seed in this region if they can pull off that win a week later against Hewitt-Trussville. So continuing to gain some momentum and show that you can compete with the best team in the state is a good way to do that going into a big game the week after this. The end of this Friday night, though, expect the Thompson Warriors to pick up a hard-fought win in a good battle here with Oak Mountain. Well, something's got to give when you look at this matchup between Spain Park and Vestavia as the Jaguars hit the road to take on the Rebels in a game where both these teams are looking for some momentum here late in the season to gain some confidence and positivity going into the offseason. And you look at them right now, a combined 2-12 with 1 win each from these two teams. The Jags, they've lost 6 in a row now to this point since their season opening win against Huntsville. You look at Vestavia Hills, they've got that win against Tuscaloosa County a couple weeks ago. They almost take down Hewitt-Trussville last week in a game they led late in that matchup. Just some unfortunate things go against them late in that game to end it as they end up losing by a couple of touchdowns there to Hewitt-Trussville. But I think that's the big difference in this game. Throughout the season, we've seen Vestavia improve on both sides of the ball. Under a first-year head coach, they've been trying to buy in and trust his philosophies, and you've somewhat seen that pay off over the last few weeks. And for Spain Park, they just haven't quite done that. This is a team, they're going to go out, they're going to line up on the offensive side of the football and be very physical. They're going to go right at you, and they're not scared to do it, even though they're going to get hit on every play. These guys go out there with their physical stature, and they go out there and play football. But we haven't seen much change. It's been the same thing week in and week out. And so what do you do this week to make that look a little bit different and find ways to score enough points in this football game? I think that's the drastic difference, especially when your defense has struggled as much as Spain Parks has, not only this year, but the last couple of years as well. But you look at these two teams so far this season, Spain Park scoring just 15.9 points per game. Vestavia Hills, they're scoring 17.4. So not much difference there on the offensive side of the football. But the difference is you're looking at a Vestavia team that's giving up just 28.3 points per game so far this season, while Spain Park's giving up 36.9 points per game. So you look at that, I think the defense of Vestavia Hills makes a difference in this game. I also think you've got a situation in which the Rebels are starting to find some confidence there on the offensive side of the football. I think that can make a huge difference for the Rebels in this game. Look for them to pick up the win against Spain Park on Friday. What was an emotional week for the Helena Huskies. They pick up a huge win last Friday night as they improve, or last Thursday night as they improved to 8-0 with their victory against the Calera Eagles. A 31-21 win in that matchup. Led 17-0 at the break. Faced some adversity after falling behind 21-17 in the fourth quarter, but they bounced right back with 14 unanswered. Beautiful play calls late in that game. Jordan Washington, yet again, 200-plus yards rushing. J.C. Sibley, a big catch off of Mac Turner's throw as they get a big connection late in that game on another beautiful play call that helps cement that win. 31-21. The Helena Huskies now have won the region championship 2 of the last 3 years. They finished in the top 2 of the region standings 3 years in a row, and last year they finished second, but don't get to play Pelham. They had to forfeit that game in what would have decided the region champion a year ago. So you've got the Huskies arguably have been one of the best teams they have been one of the best teams in the region the last 3 years, could have won 3 region championships in a row as well. But before we get to this week's game, head coach Richie Busby, his dad did pass away this past weekend, and just a difficult situation, been in the hospital for a while, and obviously a lot of people have been praying for them. Continue to send your prayers and thoughts out to head coach Richie Busby there at Helena. It's been an emotional time, and this team was bought in for him and for his dad, and his dad bought into the team as well. So you know that's going to continue to be an emotional moment. But the fact that they won that region championship before the sad and devastating weekend, truly I think a special moment there for Busby there at Helena. And I think this is something that's going to continue to motivate this team. They're going to continue to buy in. They're very close. They love their head coach. I think this is going to continue to make it more of a family-like atmosphere there for the Huskies going into this week's matchup against Stanhope Elmore. And obviously not much on the line, but this team looking to continue to play with pride, looking to remain undefeated and finish this regular season with a perfect record. They've got a bye week the week after this to rest up and get ready for their final regular season game and a strong postseason run. So you know they're going to come out, play hard this Friday night against Stanhope Elmore. And you look at this game on paper, this is a 4-3 Stanhope Elmore team. They're scoring 21.9 points per game, giving up just 16.6. So they're playing well on the defensive side of the football. We'll see. Helena's been a little bit hot and cold the last few weeks on both sides of the ball, particularly on the defensive side. Last week, though, the offense was the one that came out a little bit more cold. You still saw Jordan Washington making big plays, though, and then that connection between Turner and Sibley late in that football game. This is an offense that's been playing well outside of some up-and-down play a week ago, scoring 36.4 points per game. The defense the 3 weeks before that, it's been an emotional 4-week stretch for the Huskies in some very tight battles. These are some games that could really give them a boost in the playoffs because you've been there, you've been battle-tested, and you've pulled out some close games, but they've been emotional and they've been difficult at times against teams that you probably went into the matchup thinking they should be able to pull away, and at times they've looked like the team that is number 4 in the state, likely going to move up even higher in this week's rankings. And you look at other times, and it's been a little bit confusing at what's been going on. But this defense stepped up last week, shut down a very, very good Calera offense that's loaded with talent on that side of the football, and played well. Expect the defense to continue to get back to what we expect at Helena these next few weeks. I expect a big finish. Taking on a team in Stanhope that's only scoring about 20 points per game, it's tough for me to see them scoring enough to hang around in this game. I do think their defense will make it tight for a while, but at the end of the night, attaining for Jordan Washington going to be a tall task for the Mustangs in this one. I expect the Huskies to improve to 9-0 going into their bye week, looking to finish this season strong. Well, the 3-game win streak came to an end for the Calera Eagles this past Friday night, but now they've got their biggest matchup of the season this Friday as they play host to Wetumpka. This is a game, if the Eagles can win, they lock up a playoff spot. Even if they finish in a tie for that final spot in the region at the end of the season or that third spot, they've got the tiebreaker advantage against both Wetumpka and Stanhope Elmore this season. So a big one this Friday night against Wetumpka. Win this one, you get that playoff spot clinched. You get that tie-breaking scenario there. So a big one for the Eagles as they take on Wetumpka this week. And you look so far this season at what they've been able to do, improve so drastically on the offensive side of the football, but the defense has also improved, and that's been the key. Their depth and stamina, especially late in football games, has made a huge difference so far for them this season. And you look at what they've been able to, what that's led to. Going into this season, they hadn't won more than one head-to-head game since 2017. They've now won 4. They're sitting at 4-3 overall this season. And beyond that, they've won on their home football field several times. And last week against one of the best teams, a top 5 team in the 6A classification, a county battle against Helena, who's already locked up the region championship now with their win against Calera last week. But you look at that game, Clear fell behind 17-0, and on a night where their offense was not playing as well as they had been throughout the season, still found a way to come out in the second half and score 21 unanswered to take the 21-17 lead late there in the fourth quarter. Unfortunately for the Eagles, Helena bounces back. They scored 14 unanswered in the final few minutes to win that game. But at the end of the day, you showed, if you're Clear, that you could compete with one of the best teams in the state, and now you've got to carry that confidence into this week, knowing your offense didn't play as well as it could. Your defense did play pretty good, but your offense didn't play as well as it could last week. Now carry that into this week. Say, man, if we play good offense this week and our defense continues to play the way that it has, you've got a strong chance to pull off this win against Wetumpka. And this is a Wetumpka team that's sitting at 4-4 overall this season. They're giving up 19.4 points per game, so they're playing well defensively so far this season, but their offense is struggling. They're scoring just 17.3 points per game on the offensive side of the football, and that's going to be a huge difference, if you ask me, with what we've seen improvement-wise from Calera. If their offense can get together and play any better than they did last week, Preston Stokes can get in a rhythm, Kobe Prentice, Braylon Farrington, Chris Cotton, if those guys can start to find some momentum and confidence again this week, you're going to be looking at a Clear team, in my opinion, that's headed to the playoffs because of what that can do. This defense, I think, is going to have a good performance. We haven't seen Wetumpka blow anybody off the field so far this season. And you're looking at a Calera team that's scoring 26.7 points per game, 10 more points per game than what Wetumpka's doing. And the defense only giving up 21.3 points per game, just 2 more points than what we've seen Wetumpka giving up. So you get that offense rolling this week. The way the defense is playing, going up against an offense that's struggling, I expect Calera to pull off a huge win, advance to the playoffs for the first time since joining the 6A classification. So a huge opportunity on their home field this Friday night. Expect it to be rocking in Calera. We've got a similar situation for the Chelsea Hornets this Friday night as well, as they take on a very good Shades Valley team that their record may not live up to as good as this team has been this year. They've played one of the most difficult schedules in the state so far, but so have the Chelsea Hornets. And this game is likely going to go a long way in determining which of these teams will make the postseason this year. But before we get to that, let's look back at last week and what an emotional and special win that was for the Chelsea Hornets as they pick up a 41-34 win on Thursday night against Huffman, a game that it looked like was going to be another heartbreaking loss for the Hornets after so many in their 0-4 start to the season. But instead, they fall behind by a touchdown late in that game. They score what looked to be the game-tying touchdown, but they missed the extra point, and it's 34-33 with just over a minute left. But somehow they use their 2 timeouts left. They force a punt, and Huffman fumbles the punt. They fall on it. Chelsea gets the ball back, short field to work with about 25 seconds to go, and they score a touchdown. And get this, the pass comes from Hayden Garrison to MJ Conrad for that game winner, and Conrad sporting the number 6 jersey, the same jersey that Michael Gibbs wore for the Hornets for so many years there at Chelsea. Gibbs passed away earlier that weekend, and so just an emotional situation. They were playing for him in that game, and for it to end on a pass going to his former jersey, just a special, special moment there for the Chelsea Hornets. And that's something that can carry a team. That's something that doesn't just last on that win against Huffman on a Thursday night. That's something that carries you moving forward. Such a big momentum boost, and now they've got that extra emotional support going into the rest of their season, and they're going to need that this week against Shades Valley, because this is going to be a tough battle. You look at Shades Valley so far, they've still got a chance to get into the playoffs after a slow start this season, but so do the Chelsea Hornets. Chelsea started 0-4. They've now won 3 games in a row, and this matchup likely will determine who gets into the playoffs. Chelsea's got to win to stay alive. If they do, they likely lock up a spot. There is, however, still a chance at a 3-way tie between Chelsea, Shades Valley, and Homewood at the end of the regular season. So a big stretch coming up here for the Chelsea Hornets. If they win this one and then upset Mountain Brook a week later, they automatically go to the playoffs. But if they win this one and you've got some other things unfolding different ways, there's still a chance. Shades Valley likely going to win their season finale against Woodlawn the week after. So Chelsea, they control their own destiny. 2 wins and they're in. A win this week, you're likely going to be in, but you need a little bit of help determining what's going to happen as far as the tiebreaker situation. So a big week for the Chelsea Hornets, and this is a game where you look at what they've done offensively, and that should be enough yet again to make the difference. Shades Valley, they've struggled so far this season in really just playing defense in general. But you look at this Chelsea offense, it's an offense that scored 42 and 41 the last 2 weeks and 31 or more in their last 5 games. They're now scoring 31 points per game this season, taking on a Shades Valley team that's scoring just 8.3 points per game and giving up 29.9. Now, Shades Valley comes into this game with some momentum and some confidence as well. They pick up a 10-8 win against Homewood last week, and that was a huge win for them from a confidence standpoint. Obviously, Chelsea lost 37-35 to Homewood a few weeks back, so we'll see how that unfolds, if that makes any difference in this football game. But when you're an offense scoring 8.3 points per game, that's more than 20 points less than what Chelsea is scoring so far this season. It's going to be tough to keep up with what we've seen from Chelsea on the offensive side of the football. Hayden Garrison, Thomas Simpson, Cooper Griffin, so many other guys. MJ Conrad stepping up last week. There seems to be 2 guys locked into playing good at receiver each week. That's Cooper Griffin and Thomas Simpson. And now you're starting to see some other guys. It's been a couple of different guys the last few weeks emerge as a third option. And when you've got a quarterback like Garrison who can spread the ball around, has a good arm, there's going to be a lot of focus on those receivers, but can they guard all of them? Giving up 29.9 points per game. I don't see them stopping Chelsea enough, and I definitely don't see Shades Valley scoring enough in this game. Now, Chelsea hasn't blown anybody off the field this season other than their Woodlawn win. I think this is going to be a tight battle, but at the end of the night, I think the offense continues to make plays late in the fourth quarter to pick up another win, remain alive for a playoff spot against Shades Valley. Going to be another emotional time for the Hornets this Friday night, but a big, big chance for them to remain in the playoff hunt after their 0-4 start to the season. Expect the Hornets to come out and play like it when they take the field. Well, it's another big week for the Montevallo Bulldogs and their playoff hunt and chase down as they control their own destiny at this point. Win a big way the last couple of weeks, 49-48 against West Blockton. Last week, a 48-6 win against Sumter Central. And now you've got a team sitting firmly in good position at 3-2 in region play, and the offense starting to play its best football of the season. They've scored 49, 37, and 48 the last 3 weeks of the season, and they've upped their average to 32.6 points per game. In addition to that, the defense playing the best football it's played in several years. Obviously, the 38 given up a couple weeks ago to West Blockton, not what they wanted to do. They struggled in that game from a defensive standpoint, but they've played well outside of that against some of the best teams in the 4A classification. They're giving up just 22.3 points per game. The Bulldogs, you look at that in addition to that, also giving up 8 or less in 2 of their last 3 games. So they're playing well on the defensive side of the ball, and now they get a team in Holt sitting at 2-5 on the season, scoring just 16.1 points per game so far this season. But get this, they're giving up 40 points per game this season. So when you look at Montevallo's offense, the way they're playing, Joseph Anderson continuing to roll along, running the football, Kyle Cottingham coming along at the quarterback position. They've got some other athletes that are starting to emerge on that side of the football, going up against a defense that's giving up 40 points per game. It's tough for me to see Holt having enough in this game to stop that Montevallo offense, and only scoring 16 points per game with an improved Montevallo defense. I don't expect this one to be close. I expect for the second week in a row, you should see Montevallo pull away and continue to improve, continue to cement their chances at the number 3 seed in this region, just like they got a season ago right behind American Christian and Bibb County. Another big chance this Friday night to continue to sit right there firmly in the playoff picture going into the final week of region play and then the final week of the regular season. So a big game this week, a big couple weeks coming up for the Bulldogs as they look to cement that playoff spot this season. Well, the Vincent Yellow Jackets took care of business last week, a 51-6 win against Randolph County. Now they've got a huge 2-week stretch coming up. Starts this Friday night with a battle against BB Comer, who is really the surprise team in this region, playing some great football this season. If Vincent can win this one, likely going to lock up a playoff spot, but it's a big 2-week stretch. They need to win this one and the next one. Even if they lose this one, though, still a good chance that they make the playoffs the following week as well. So just a big week this week from a confidence standpoint, showing you can compete with one of the best teams in the region. And this is a BB Comer team that is sitting at 4-1 in region play, 6-2 overall. But Vincent, they're sitting at 5-2 overall this season. A lot of people forget that they got that win in the opener because of a forfeit. They lose 18-16 head-to-head on the field. Likely should have won that game by a few scores the way they played, but end up getting that game forfeited as a victory for Vincent because of an ineligible player by Winterboro. So you're looking at that. You've got two teams playing some good football. Their records look good, but you've got a slight edge from BB Comer so far this season, scoring 40.9 points per game, giving up just 20.3 points per game. And on the offensive side, Vincent, they're scoring 34 points per game, so about 6 points less per game, and giving up 23 points per game, about 3 points more per game. But you're looking at a Vincent team that's playing so much better on the defensive side of the football this year. The offense, led by Jamari Lawson and a couple of others on that side of the football, playing well. Blake Allum's coming off one of his best games of the season. Expect Vincent to compete in this game. They played Lynette a few weeks ago. They know what it's like to face a good team. And as good as BB Comer's been this year, not as good as Lynette. Expect this game to be tight because of what Vincent's been able to do on the defensive side of the football, drastically improved over there. And then the offense, Jamari Lawson, expect him to make some big plays in this game. It's going to be tight for a while. It's just a matter of can Vincent finish strong in the second half. If they can get a 2-touchdown lead early in this game, gain some early confidence, and then just play with as much energy as they have going into the second half, this is a team that's going to fight, they're going to hang around, and they're going to have a chance to pick up a huge win that would go a long way in determining what goes on with them in the playoffs, whether they get a higher seed, whether they get into the postseason at all. This game going to mean a lot come the end of region play here in a couple weeks. So will the week after this. So a big 2-week stretch for Vincent starts this Friday. The Cornerstone Chargers, they are off this week, but we've got one AISA game and one 8-man game. In the AISA, Coosa Valley continues to be on fire. The last couple weeks played some great football as they pick up a 55-24 win against Abbeville, and the offense starting to find its rhythm. Played well against Cornerstone the week before, now put up 55. The defense had arguably its worst performance of the season, still only gave up 24 last week, but they're sitting at 3-4. They've won a couple in a row now, and they're taking on the region leader this Friday night in Lowndes Academy. So a big opportunity for the Rebels, now scoring 20.3 points per game and giving up 20.4 points per game. So they're right there on that line of being identical on both sides of the ball. Lowndes, they're sitting at 5-3 overall this season, and they're a very talented football team. They've played a difficult schedule. Expect Lowndes to come out and play well again, but expect Coosa Valley to keep this game close. It's still an outside chance for the Rebels to get the region championship this year as they continue to battle. Have to win this one for that to happen, to create some chaos there in their region, and I expect them to come out and play just like we've seen them play the last couple of weeks, play sound on the defensive side of the ball, which is where they started success-wise early in the season, and continue to show some improvement on the offensive side. Whether that's enough, we'll find out at the end of the night on Friday. The Evangel Lightning, they're traveling to the Tennessee Heat, coming off a bye week, off that difficult loss to Ezekiel the week before the bye. And Evangel was starting to play their best football of the season and just kind of fell flat in that game against Ezekiel. A big rivalry game, a lot of emotions there. And they couldn't pick up that win as they lose 41-30. But the extra week to prepare, now going in to a game against the Tennessee Heat, which would normally be a huge 8-man battle, teams contending for national championships. But this year, you've got a Tennessee Heat team that's sitting at 2-7 and struggling right now. Expect Evangel to bounce back this week, continue to show that they can still compete for an 8-man national championship. This is a team that now that they've pulled off that one loss, they're going to be hungry and determined the rest of the way. I think that pays off in this matchup against the Tennessee Heat. Well, now it's time to hand out some stars, our SCR Stars of the Week segment, as we talk about the best performances from last Thursday and Friday night. And we had some big showings, and we start with the Thompson Warriors. Connor Harrell, another big night, 7 carries for 113 yards and a touchdown running the football. Also 13 of 16, 136 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air there for the Warriors. Brandon Franklin, a big night on the ground, just 6 carries but totaled 102 yards and had a 59-yard touchdown run in that win last Friday night. A big performance from Franklin, somebody they're going to need to continue to play well throughout the rest of the season, especially if they want to make that deep playoff run back to a state championship again this season. Also going to continue to need the defense to step up and play well. Jax Van Zant did that in a big way this past Friday night. 6 tackles, 1 sack, and 3 tackles for loss in that game. Just a solid performance from him, and he's kind of the unsung hero, a guy that a lot of people may not talk about or notice on the defensive side, but he is a leader of that unit, playing extremely good football yet again this season. On the other side of this performance coming up on Friday night, we've got the Oak Mountain Eagles and Evan Smith, one of his better passing performances of the year, 8 of 12, 173 yards and 4 touchdown passes this past Friday night in that win against Tuscaloosa County. And you look at him, a guy that normally is going to reel off some big touchdown runs. He had some beautiful throws. Best I've seen his arm look. Even though he didn't put up a ton of yards, they could have done more if they wanted to, but some beautiful throws in that game. And Ethan Hammett with a huge night, receiving 5 catches for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns there for the Eagles. They're going to need him and several others to step up again in the receiving unit this Friday against Thompson. That could go a long way. And C.J. Branson, another guy that can make a difference. You look at him, 2 touchdowns, 29 yards rushing, 30 yards receiving, had a 30-yard touchdown reception, also had a 10-yard rushing touchdown. Going to need him to play well. Cade George and several others here Friday night, as well as the defense, and they played one of their best games of the season last week. Ja'Kai Mullins had a pick 6, his first season playing football, picks up a pick 6 last week. Devin Moss, an interception before the half to keep that game out of hand going into the break. And then Quest Agee, a 90-yard scoop and score for a touchdown, a big night for him as he really put the exclamation point on that win for the Eagles. Moving to the 6A classification, the Chelsea Hornets, a big win last Thursday night against Huffman, the emotional victory there. Hayden Garrison, boy, has he played well this season, 18 of 28, 306 yards and 4 touchdowns passing. Also had a rushing touchdown with 20 total yards on the ground. His favorite target, Thomas Simpson, 7 catches, 102 yards in that win against Huffman. And then you also look at MJ Conrad, scored the emotional game-winning touchdown wearing the number 6 jersey, the former jersey of Michael Gibbs. He had 2 touchdowns in that game. He was one of 5 receivers with 40 or more yards in that win. He had 44 in those 2 scores. And the defense played so well, even though they gave up 34 points in that game. You look at Evan Durham, Garrison Maddox, Marquise Turner, and Kyler Murray. All of those guys all had 7.5 tackles or more in that game. Durham led the way with 8.5, and Maddox added 8, and in addition to that, had 4 tackles for loss. So a big night for those guys on the defensive side at Chelsea. For the Pelham Panthers, they cement the 2 seed in the region with their 20-14 win last Friday. Will Langford had all 3 touchdowns, all in the first half. He finished 11 of 16, 155 yards and a touchdown through the air. Also ran for 2 touchdowns and 68 yards on 11 carries in that win for the Panthers. Gabe Gamble, another big night for him. He's really hit his stretch where he's in a rhythm, and he's going to run for more than 100 yards every week. That's just the way he's playing right now. 16 carries, 120 yards in that win for Pelham last week. Another big-time running back at Helena, Jordan Washington, yet again, over 200 yards. Just seems to be a run-of-the-mill week for him every week now at this point in the season. 36 carries, 221 yards, and a touchdown in that 31-21 win for the Huskies. The Helena defense also played well. despite giving up a 17-0 lead and falling behind 21-17. It's the best the defense has looked in several weeks and against a good offense as well. Joseph Roberto and Connor Pugh led the way in that one for the Huskies on the defensive side of the football. Then you go down to the 4A classification, the Montevallo Bulldogs, Joseph Anderson, another big night there for the Bulldogs, 10 carries, 168 yards, and 4 touchdowns in that 48-6 win against Sumter Central. He's going to be key as they look to continue chasing down a playoff spot over these next couple of weeks, as are Jamari Lawson and Blake Ollums at Vincent, two guys that played really well this last Friday night. You look at Lawson, 11 carries, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and Ollums, 6 of 8, 120 yards, and 3 touchdowns there. His best showing of the season so far at the quarterback position. So those two guys really going to have to step up and play some good football here these next 2 weeks as the Vincent Yellow Jackets look to have one of their best seasons in close to 10 years if they can pull off a couple wins here to end region play. So a big stretch for them, a big stretch for many. Expect some highlight performances to come this Friday night and another big week of region play. We'll talk about all of those matchups on next week's show in our next SCR Stars of the Week segment. Well, that's going to do it for this week's Shelby County High School football show from here at Thompson High School. We'll be back out here on Friday night for our game of the week with the Facebook Live pregame show. We'll be having coverage throughout the night as well on Twitter with live updates at Alec Etheridge SC is where you can follow for all of the sports information from the Shelby County Reporter. And then we've got other big games as well. All of those updates and stories as well as photos going to be up on Twitter, Facebook, ShelbyCountyReporter.com. Make sure you're following along there. It's an exciting night ahead, an exciting 2-week stretch, and the postseason now just a few weeks away. So some fun football ahead these next few weeks as we gear up for what could possibly be a historic showing of teams in the playoffs this year. We've got a strong chance to get several teams into the playoffs, almost every team into the playoffs this year. So going to be a very fun few weeks coming up. Make sure you follow along for all the great information that we can bring to you. We're going to try to do our best. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. That's going to do it for the Shelby County Football Show. I'll see you all on Friday night right here from Warrior Stadium.